God knows that I have learned a lot by dating in Germany. I have to say, it is an experience. It's an experience worth sharing. It's an experience worth talking about here. It's spicy, it's exciting, it's different, it's quiet. It's absolutely new as an American who's living abroad in Germany. I've been here for about 2 years now, and I learned a lot about dating in Germany. It is something that perhaps is even considered a skill. It's a skill to date in Germany. It's a different kind of skill because dating in Germany looks different from dating in America. That is why today I will be answering a few questions here on my phone about what it's like dating in Germany. So again, I'm speaking based off of my experience and the dates that I've been on and the relationship that I'm currently in with the German, things that I've seen as a single woman, the things that I've seen in a relationship. This is my experience, and I hope that no one takes offense. I really respect the German culture, and just know that I'm just talking about my observations. So first we're going to talk about dating culture mistakes that I made in Germany. So the first dating culture mistake that I made in Germany is not knowing what dating means. So the definition of dating is different in Germany as opposed to the US. I'm speaking very generally here and really based off of my own experiences. So I can't even speak on behalf of all Americans because perhaps there are some Americans who would disagree with my definition of dating, and perhaps even Germans might say, actually, I have a different definition of dating than what you just stated or how you think Germans view dating as. But anyway, I would say in the States, dating starts when you say, hey, can you be my boyfriend? And the other person says, hey, can you be my girlfriend or my partner or whatever? There first has to be this question posed in order for dating to take place. Thus commences dating after both parties have a verbal agreement that they are in partnership, that they are official or exclusive. And if you do not have this conversation where the other person says, can I be your partner? Can I be your girlfriend or your boyfriend? And then the other person agrees, you're not dating. You are in what my generation might call a situationship. No one has made it clear what the state of this relationship is. You're not exclusive. There are no labels. You are in a situationship. This is the concept of dating in my mind. And therefore, coming to Germany with this mindset, I had it all wrong. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong if you're watching this and you're German, but from what I learned and what I've observed, dating is when you're talking to someone romantically. You're dating them. Therefore, if you are talking to other people at the same time, you need to make that clear to the person that you're dating. You need to, even if you just went on one date, like you're dating them. Therefore, because you went on a date, so you're dating them. And I know that this is actually much more simple. It's not as complex, and it makes so much more sense. So why didn't I know this? That is the question. Why didn't I know this? Because I just was going off of the partners that I had in the past in the US, or the people that I've dated or spoken to or had situationships with. This is how the world spun, okay? This is how it worked. This is what the concept of dating culture looked like. That is most certainly a mistake that I made living here in Germany. I misunderstood the concept of dating. I didn't respect the rules, to put it simply. But just know that I definitely learned my lesson. I definitely learned very fast the dating culture. And I honestly assumed that other people had this mentality that I did about dating culture. And funnily enough, there were some people that did come to find out, and there was others who didn't. So there were some people who also had the same concept of dating, that you're not official until you have that conversation. And now that person wasn't German. That person was actually from a different country. Okay. And then, but my boyfriend today would say dating is when you mutually agree. Sorry. Dating is when you both are going on dates. You are dating them. Okay. So simple, right? The next question I'm answering is why dating apps feel different in Germany. And I have to premise that I did not really use dating apps in the States. Maybe once I went on a date, okay? And it was the end of that. Coming to Germany, however, I felt inspired to access dating apps, to look on dating apps, and to be a part of the dating app culture. With that being said, let's discuss how dating apps are different in Germany. Okay, first of all, again, I didn't really didn't really use dating apps in the States. The biggest difference is the actual date itself. Overall, generally speaking, men are pretty much very similar creatures no matter where you are in the world. There's nothing extremely different about men in Germany versus the way that men communicate in the States on dating apps, except I would say maybe from what I observed, and I don't even know if this is true, but just from my experiences on dating apps, was that the men were willing to have more conversations instead of just, one word, hey, and there's just a little bit more game. Like, it almost feels like some men, not all, but some men are actually trying here on dating apps. They put a little bit more effort, and I think perhaps it could be because from what I've heard, German women on these dating apps, they spend a long time before they actually agree to a date, which I actually respect. From what I've heard, men have to really prove themselves before women from Germany will agree to a date, and it takes sometimes too long in some opinions of men that I've spoken to for a woman on these, a German woman specifically on these dating apps, to actually agree to a date. So I'd say there's more of a conversation happening before one agrees to a date, or they are expected to put a little bit more effort into communicating before the date takes place. That is the key difference between dating apps in the US versus dating apps in Germany. The other difference I would say, and I guess this is less about dating apps and more about just like going on the date itself, is that in the US, because you need a car to get everywhere, it's less romantic. With dating, it's so much more exciting in my mind, especially at the beginning, going on dates here in Germany, because you have to, most of the time, if you're a student or you're just someone without a car, you're going to have to get all dressed up before, put on your nice shoes, walk down to the U-Bahn station, the subway station, go on the train or the tram, or walk even sometimes, or take your bike to a date, because the infrastructure allows this sort of experience to take place, and then boom, you're at the date. And it's just something a little bit more interesting and romantic about this way of dating. There's been some dates where I walked for most of the date, and some women complain about German women out on walking dates where all you do is walk. There was one date where I went to a park, and that was the date. Yeah, that was the date, literally going to a park. But I would just say it's just like the way that one gets to the date is also different. So the next question is for women who come from societies where men pay for things on the date. It's what Americans don't expect about dating in Germany. I'm giving this specific answer because I know that in American culture, as an American myself, that it's very normal for the man to pay for the date. However, this is not always true in Germany. I would say sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. It really just depends on the person. I think with most of these answers is that most people are different. I think there's a general consensus on how dating culture looks like in Germany. However, of course, there are also some individual ways of dating that looks different. And I'm going to speak on behalf of someone else for this next question. When it comes to what Americans or just women from societies that look a little bit different who's paying, I'm speaking on behalf of someone else that I know who went on a date with someone German, and for every date that they went on, he did not pay. It could be because he's older. They both are much older, and maybe he just views dating a little bit differently than he once did. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's something to maybe look out for, just in case, if you're expecting your German man that you're going on a date with to pay for everything. You could be surprised. You could be disappointed. So just brace yourself for whatever outcome that is, and don't expect for him to pay, because he might not. So the last question, and I guess I'll have to make another part if you guys want to know more about dating in Germany, but the last question is about dating as a Black woman in Germany. And I guess, unfortunately, I don't have that exciting of an answer, because honestly, dating as a Black woman in Germany is not too different. I think it's slightly different. I like to think that I have a little bit more options in dating, funnily enough, here in Germany. It could be because I live in a big city. It could be because I was on a dating app and I had never been on one. I just feel like in my mind, there's something in me that thinks for some reason, and I don't really know why, that I have more options here dating. And I think it could also be because there is the understanding that there are men who are excited about the idea of dating a foreign woman. And now, is that fetishization? I can't say this word for some reason. Is this fetishizing the person? It could be. It could very well be that. Is it because I was on a dating app and I felt like I found more options that seemed more interesting to me? Could be because of that. But I would say, funnily enough, like, I have been surprisingly approached by German men, whereas in the States I was only really approached by certain men. And I kid you not, to give you a little bit of a story, I was on a walk in my neighborhood and I was walking back to my apartment, and there was this German man who I walked past. I didn't really notice him, to be honest. I was walking to my apartment, even to the point where I got into the door. I was about to walk up the steps when I heard someone. Turns out it was this man that I had walked past, and he said in German, was I interested in going out for ice cream? I realized that this was his way of asking me out, like on a date. And literally, I've never been approached like this before. And it was actually quite charming, I have to say. But I told him, like, I have a boyfriend, because I do. Anyway, I just find this interesting because there's just there's a specific kind of man that tends to show interest in the States. That's why I feel like I have more options here in Germany as a Black woman. And maybe it's just for all women that you have more options. I'm not really sure. I hope that makes sense. I guess I'll give you a bonus question here. How is flirting different in Germany versus the States? Let me tell you. Flirting is very different in Germany. I think that's the biggest difference about dating culture, besides the defining what dating is, would be flirting. Germans are a lot less loud with their flirting, and some people might consider it charming, some people might consider it annoying. Honestly, I perhaps even like the way that this goes, because it's not so in your face, it's not super, I don't feel harassed, maybe a little bit. It's a little bit intense at times, but I would say, a German is flirting when they are giving you eye contact, okay? When they are staring at you, especially if it's a night out with the girls, or if you are walking and you know that you look good and you're dolled up, they will stare. I just find this to be absolutely hilarious. I mean, I think some women might even absolutely hate this and consider this rude, but I guess it's just because I, as an American woman, I am just so used to a different way of men flirting, and it being super in your face and like just blatantly asking, hey, can I get your number? At the gas station, you're coming out of your car, at the store. I mean, is that even flirting? I don't know, but I guess it's just like right straight to the approaching, where German men, they show interest through staring, and by, especially if it's a night out, being in your space, your personal space. They may not directly ask you a question like, can I get your number or something like this, but instead they are just really in your personal space. Like, they just either dance next to you or they stand next to you. And I mean, I just kind of feel gaslit into thinking maybe they're not even flirting at all. But apparently this is a thing. It's very subtle. That is it. So that is my experience with dating in Germany. If you have any other questions related to dating in Germany, I'd be more than happy to answer them in the comments, or perhaps I can put together all of your questions and put them into another video so that I can convey my experience correctly and fully. So that is dating in Germany, and yeah, bye!